It is currently 1:04 p.m. on Saturday, March 6th, 2021, and you are listening to episode 9 of the Past Pro podcast. I'm your host, Nigel Cornelius, and to start off the show today, we'll talk about the big news that dropped earlier this week, and that is that J.J. Watt is officially now an Arizona Cardinal. Earlier this week, I can't remember the exact date, and I'm also just too lazy to go look it up. J.J. Watt signed a new 2-year, $31 million contract with the Cardinals. This was a big surprise for me and a lot of other people because J.J. Watt had apparently, well, at least the media was making claims that he wanted to go to a contender and that he really wanted to go to a Super Bowl team and all this jazz. And it was the Packers, Bills, Browns, and Titans were the final 4 teams that everybody kept saying. Then out of nowhere, J.J. Watt posts a picture of him working out in Arizona Cardinals gear and says, "Source me." So that means he signed there, and then the contract news came out, and people were, mad at him, saying, "Oh, this is bad for your career. You said you lied. You wanted to go to a contender." Arizona's not that far off of a playoff team. They play in arguably the hardest division of football, and the 49ers aren't going to come back as good as people think. The Seahawks might not have Russell Wilson. I still don't know how bad that is, but if Russell Wilson keeps being a bitch, he'd be a bitch. But the Cardinals could easily be a playoff team next year. And once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. You know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were a wildcard team, won the Super Bowl this year. They were the first wildcard team to win the Super Bowl since Aaron Rodgers and the Packers did it in 2010. And even then, that Packers team barely limped into the playoffs. The Giants went in and beat the undefeated Patriots as a fucking wildcard team. Once you make the show, anything can happen. But the real reason he signed there was, A, they have Kyler Murray, and he says he believes in Kyler, which he should. Kyler's a top 10 quarterback without a question. Great arm talent, needs better coaching. Cliff Kingsbury, he could take that step, but he could not. But the real reason he signed it because at 31 years old, he got $23 million of that $31 million guaranteed. That's huge. For a guy who's missed 30-something games over the past 5 years, he's been on the IR 3 times, has a real bad injury history as of late, and is 31 years old. $23 million guaranteed is huge. I don't fault him at all for wanting to go there, because I know with the cap situations, the only person who could have offered that kind of guaranteed money were the Browns, and even then, that's not that big of a deal for them to offer. Pass rusher isn't their biggest need. The Titans I don't think they could have given that much guaranteed because of their cap situation, but I can tell you for sure the Packers couldn't. They're still over the cap. They made a run at JJ, but they obviously weren't going to pay him $23 million guaranteed because that's my opinion. That's a little high. I think that's a little bit of an overpay, but hey, if he helps out, that's good for Arizona. I also understand why he wouldn't want to go play in, I know he's from Wisconsin, but Buffalo and Green Bay are fucking cold and miserable for old people. When I say old, he's only his 30s, but older athletes. Why the hell would you want to go play in the cold? Outdoors in Lambeau where it snows sometimes and it's colder than piss. Fuck that. Go to Arizona where it's sunny and you get paid a lot of money. So, yeah, there's just not a surprise there. Surprise, but when you find out the contract details, it wasn't a surprise. It made a lot of sense. It's I think it's without incentives, it's just around $14 million a year. But with incentives added in, it's a bit different. I know there's incentives for hitting 10 sacks and playing all the games. It's kind of like this year with Tom Brady's contract was seemed like a lower base salary, but incentive laid in space for playoffs and being top in passing yards, top somebody in passing yards, etc. Made it so he earned a good chunk as a quarterback. And in other news, I'm not really going to go into any specific players, but the salary cap being lowered is leading to a lot of big name veterans being cut. Just for example, this week the Vikings released veteran tight end Kyle Rudolph. The Saints also released veteran tight end Jared Cook. Other veterans have been released. More will be released, with the cap floor being at $180 million. And it's clear everybody's projecting a 185 cap. Not surprised. Wouldn't surprise me if the Packers, even though Brian Gutekunst said Preston Smith is expected to be around unless he takes a pay cut, I wouldn't be amazed if Preston Smith is cut. You know, guys there's a lot of older veterans with cap hits. The Saints also released Josh Hill, their tight end. There's the Eagles, I already mentioned this last week, but released Deshaun Jackson. A lot of veterans are going to get cut. Guys on the bad side of 30 with the way the cap's going. But now to continue rolling through the segment I've done the past 2 weeks is the biggest needs segment, and this week we'll be looking at the AFC South, which is the division that consists of the Colts, the Titans, the Texans, and the Jaguars. So, with the draft being just over a month away, we'll start with the Jaguars, who luckily have the number 1 overall pick. Their biggest needs are quarterback, offensive tackle, and then an edge rusher to complement Josh Allen, possibly. I don't really know how. And then I think interior D-line's another need, and corner. I'd put corner and interior D-line over edge. But quarterback, you've got handled. Number 1 pick. Don't overthink it. Just take Trevor Lawrence. Don't just stop it. Don't overthink it. Don't listen to these people trying to tell you Zach Wilson or Justin Fields or any of that noise. Just pick Trevor Lawrence. Just do it. Do it. Do it. Don't think about it. Do it. Do it. And then you also have the Seahawks pick in the draft, which is not Seahawks. You have the Rams from the Jalen Ramsey trade, which is a later pick, but it is, where is it? Pick 25. There you could easily land an edge rusher, I think. Or even an offensive tackle. Like, you could easily, I think you could land, if you're looking at edge, you could easily, I think, land Azeez Ojulari, who I think fits your scheme really well. Or you could even go for a guy like Greg Newsome at corner. Or you could, even if he falls, Christian Barmore for your interior D-line. Or if guys like Christian Darrisaw fall. Or Tevin Jenkins, Samuel Cosme, all these tackle prospects fall. Just slam the horn. You've got Miles Jack as a nice off-the-ball linebacker. Your offense outside of O-line is actually better than anyone will give you credit for. Outside of tight end, your offense, besides the O-line, is great. You were going to have Trevor Lawrence. You had James Robinson, who just had a nice breakout season. At wide receiver, you have DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook, not Demarcus Robinson. But DJ Chark, you've got those guys who are going to be fine. So, you take Trevor Lawrence. And then the nice thing is you have the highest caps, according to Over the Cap, you have the highest projected available cap space in the league with just over $85 million. That's huge. You can really go, you have a need at tight end because you let Tyler Eifert walk, but I wouldn't go pay a tight end because you're not ready to compete next year. It's going to be at least a couple years, but, maybe pay, if the Jets let Marcus May walk, pay Marcus May. He's a young safety who you could, help shore up guys because you got C.J. Henderson at corner that you drafted last year. Start building up a secondary like you did before with A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey, try to start rebuilding that. Or if any interior linemen become free, very unlikely. But the Jaguars are honestly, their rebuild I think is going to be quicker. Well, I don't like the Nick Saban coaching hire. I've said it before, I've said it again. But if Nick Saban works, this could go quick. But if not, I really hope it doesn't. Jaguars had that nice run in 2017. They were literally Blake Bortles away from a Super Bowl, but, Blake Bortles. But, yeah, obviously with your first pick, take Trevor Lawrence. And with your other pick, I think try and go offensive tackle or interior D-line because especially interior D-line is a very hard position to find in the draft and is a very thin position in the draft. If you could find one there, you're really, really set. Now, let's look at the Titans, who are in a bit of a tricky situation. Their pass rush was awful last year. Jadeveon Clowney's not coming back. You paid him a lot of money to do nothing. You pick at 22. I think at 22, personally, you have one good lineman right now. That's Jeffrey Simmons in the interior. You need help, especially in the edge. At 22, you could easily, because your biggest needs are edge, interior D-line, and then offensive tackle, wide receiver 2. Wide receiver 2, actually, wide receiver is a bigger need now that I think about it because you're probably going to let Corey Davis walk and you cut Adam Humphries, who's a really good slot receiver. So right now you have A.J. Brown and Kasami, I can't think of his last name. I can't pronounce it either. But your wide receiver room's thin. Your tight end room, if you can bring back Jonnu Smith, your tight end, and Anthony Fursker, your tight end room's fine. Offensive tackle isn't a massive need. You didn't have huge holes at O-line last year. Your running back room, obviously fine with Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill's better than anybody I'll give him credit for. Him and A.J. Brown have great chemistry. But I think edge is your biggest need. And with only $6 million, just over $6 million in projected cap space, I think you're going to have to make a move for it in the draft. Bonus is within the pick 22, a guy I've mentioned before, you can probably land Gregory Rousseau. If the Jags don't take Azeez Elijawari, you could land Azeez, even though the Jags pick after you, so that wouldn't make a lot of sense. But, there's also possibly, I can't imagine Kwity Paye falls that far, but if Kwity Paye falls with your first round pick, you could slam that without an issue. I don't know how you're going to pay, because unless you start releasing guys like Malcolm Butler, some other guys who have some big cap hits, because you've got some issues to try and get around. I mean, you did clear 7-something million in cap with the release of Adam Humphries, but it'll be an interesting offseason for the Titans. Again, I think you need to draft some people, help Jeffrey Simmons out. He can't, one D lineman can't do everything themselves. If you can get an edge guy in there to help take some pressure off him on the inside, hopefully find, load. You need to load. Your defense was awful last year. You need to load up on that. You need a pass rush. Your secondary, Desmond King is going to, if you re-sign Desmond King, you traded a 6th-round pick for him. You can't complain, but your secondary was rough. Your safeties are getting old. The Titans are in a lot worse shape than they'd like to be. And then for the team I think that has the most promise in this division, because they were a playoff team last year, they just made a move for a quarterback. They have the 4th highest available cap in the league, according to Over the Cap, with $44 million, the Indianapolis Colts. Your biggest needs are finding a new offensive tackle after Anthony Costanzo retired. That's a big deal, because the Colts always have a really good O-line. So in your first round, you could easily draft a tackle. And then with your $44 million, your secondaries, I don't know if you're going to bring Xavier Robax on the other side of 30. You do have Rock Ya-Sin, who had a nice year last year. Wide receivers, another big need. I think that's where the Colts need to go spend on an Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay. Put money out there. Throw it out there. Absolutely toss money at one of those guys, because you need someone for Carson Wentz to throw to. Michael Pittman Jr. looks like he could be really nice. He turned it on in the second half, but he's not a wide receiver 1. He's a really nice kind of slot guy you can run the short routes with. T.Y. Hilton, you could, if you want to bring him back for cheap, maybe, but he's not a wide receiver 1 anymore. You need a true wide receiver 1, and that's where I think you can get an Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin to be that guy. 100% without a doubt. And then with your draft pick, I think you go offensive tackle. At pick 21, I think you could easily land Tevin Jenkins and be very happy with that. I wouldn't have an issue with Tevin Jenkins. I think if Samuel Cosme falls or Christian Darrisaw, I'd be over the moon. But I think Tevin Jenkins is fine. I think you're fine with that at 21. You made last year, you traded your first round pick for DeForest Buckner. Huge, smooth move. Incredible. The Colts GM, Chris Ballard, has been fantastic since he came in. I wish he was around for Andrew Luck's entire tenure, because then Andrew Luck would still be on this team, and this Colts team would be incredible, because they drug Phillip Rivers to the playoff last year, and if Frank Reich can get Carson Wentz back to what he was, look out. This team is going to be deadly. They have a ton of cap space. They have a super young core. They have a really underrated linebacker core with guys like Darius Leonard, who you could argue is the best in the league. And then a super underrated guy was a 3rd-round pick 2 years ago. There's Bobby Okereke. Your line, you have DeForest Buckner. On your offensive line, you have guys, amazing offensive line, Quentin Nelson. Your running back room, Marlon Mack, you're going to let walk, but Naheem Hines and Jonathan Taylor is a great 1-2 punch. You have Michael Pittman. Zach Pascal is a little bit of a deep threat, but it'd be better if you could go get a big-name wide receiver, draft a tackle, maybe make some splash. If you have any more money, make a splash at corner. Use your day 2 picks on corner and pass rusher, because I don't know if you're going to keep Justin Houston around, but he's getting up there, and you do need a bit more of a pass rush. But that Colts defense was top 5 last year. They struggled a bit at the end of the year, but they're a good unit, and they're young. The fact that they can let guys like Malik Hooker walk and be completely fine, I don't think they have to worry. And then for the final team in this division, in my notes, for the other teams, I have their needs and their cap space. For the Texans in bold, I have, you are fucked. And then they do have $16 million projected cap space, but you're fucked. Your 25-year-old top 5 quarterback wants out Deshaun Watson, and he keeps saying he wants out. Try and do anything in your power to keep him. You did bring back David Johnson on a cheaper deal, but that trade was awful. Outside of Laramie Tunsil, your offensive line sucks. Your whole entire defense is a fucking train wreck. Your wide receiver room, you're losing Will Fuller, but Brandon Cooks is good. Randall Cobb, you shouldn't be paying that much money for his age. Darren Fellows at tight end is old as fuck. Your tight end room's really not good. There's like 2 positions on this team that are fucking viable. They have no first or second round pick this year because of the dumb shit they let Bill O'Brien do for Laramie Tunsil and the Cardinal and DeAndre Hopkins. And nobody's going to want to come play for the Texans because everybody's fucking coming out. J.J. Watt released shit's coming out about, Christian camp counselor Jack Esterby running the show up there that he's a fucking knob. Nobody likes him. Deshaun, if Deshaun Watson stays, you can probably attract some attention because he's that good. But without Deshaun Watson, good luck. Hope you can get a couple first-round picks for him because he doesn't want to play for you. If you don't trade him, he's going to hold out, it looks like. Which I'm amazed with. I didn't think this would get this far. I expected the Texans to figure this out, try and fix this, but every move they make just seems to be pissing him off more. Why the fuck did you hire David Culley? Led 2 of the worst passing games in NFL history. Led a Chiefs wide receiver core that didn't catch a single touchdown in 2014. Then led one of the NFL's worst passing attacks last year, Baltimore. And then now he's going to be that guy in Houston. Why? Hire Eric Bieniemy. Hire somebody. Brian Dable. Fuck off. It's so stupid. The organization, the way they run the show, they deserve to suck. And it's a shame for guys like J.J. Watt, who finally got out, and Deshaun Watson. It's a shame that they have to be in an organization that sucks. But the organization sucks. One of the NFL's worst defenses, arguably the NFL's worst offensive line. You have a little bit of money, but no one's going to want to come play for you unless they're desperate. Your tight end room sucks. Your wide receiver room was the only good part of your team, but Will Fuller's leaving, and Randall Cobb's going to keep getting older, so is Brandon Cooks. Yet Brandon Cooks does have 5 1,000-yard seasons. He's been really good, super underrated, but his contract's also rough, really rough. That's why the Rams traded him. They wanted out of that contract. You have nobody at corner, nobody at safety, no pass rushers now that J.J. Watt's gone. No off-the-ball linebackers. No. Nothing. You've Laramie Tunsil left tackle and then a horrendous offensive line. Darren Fells is in his 30s and isn't even a good tight end to begin with, and you have nothing after him. Your running back core sucks. You have an injured David Johnson. You let Duke Johnson walk, and you've got nothing after that. You've got nothing. Nothing to be happy for, nothing to be hopeful for. It's just, that's why there's a reason I, in my notes, put in caps. You are fucked. Because you're fucked. Nothing good coming. You're toast. It's over. Gonna have to go through quite a long rebuild after what they let if you got to get Esterby out of the building, and that rebuild will never happen. Cal McNair doesn't help. Both of them are buffoons. Shouldn't be allowed to run the organization, but they do. Really screws over the Texans. Feel bad for them, but if the owner doesn't smarten up soon, maybe you can get Teddy Bridgewater as a bridge QB if you trade Deshaun to the Panthers. Couple first-round picks. Some young talent. Maybe CMC. and Christian McCaffrey, or maybe if you go to the Dolphins, you get Tua, a couple firsts. And that's everything for this week. Remember to check out the social media at PassProPod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like and subscribe, please, if you're listening on YouTube, and rate and subscribe if you're listening on a podcast platform. It would be very helpful to the podcast. Thank you for listening.